knows how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with. That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're Oreo cookie. White in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro. I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I would slap you.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Welcome to the third hour of the show today. Patrick Roon is here, and you're talking about gun registration.
Gun registration, gateway to confiscation and extinction. And lest you think that I'm exaggerating, we have history as a lesson. And there's a great article in the NRA magazine called America's First Freedom. I urge all of you who have not joined the NRA to join the NRA. They need your support. They need your money. And they're a good organization. They're solid. And they're standing up now against an onslaught. And America's First Freedom in the the new issue, March 2013, is all about that. Registration, confiscation, extinction. In other words, the first goal is to register the guns. The second goal is to, when you've registered them, going around and round them up. And the third goal is, at least in many countries in the past, has been extinction after they've done that. And that's the three-step process.
What do you mean extinction?
Wipe them out.
Wipe out the people?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that tomorrow or any, whatever. I don't know what's going to happen in the future here. I do know the founding fathers of the United States warned us that if you allow your guns to be taken away, you may suffer the same fate of other countries that have done this. So it's a great article. I urge people to read it. I urge people to join the NRA. And interestingly, there's a memo. Well, first of all, the NRA put out an ad, which is really interesting. We're going to play it in a minute here. And just to set it up, they got this ad. What happened is they got a hold of a memo from the Justice Department. And this is Obama's Justice Department. This memo was written 2 weeks before Obama went out and started talking about gun control, okay? Believe it or not, the memo says, they admit in their memo that since assault weapons are not a major contributor to U.S. gun homicide, they admit it, they're not, and the existing stock of guns is large, an assault weapon ban is unlikely to have an impact on gun violence. However, if you couple that with a gun buyback, listen to this. You know those gun buybacks they have where you go, in L.A. we've had them where you turn your guns in and they give you $100 or whatever.
Yeah.
If you couple getting rid of assault weapons with a gun buyback, and listen to the next wording, with no exemptions, then it could be effective. So what does that mean, a gun buyback with no exemptions?
Yeah.
It means mandatory gun buy. It means taking your guns.
Yeah.
And the NRA, they didn't say how they came up with this, but they found this writing from a guy in Obama's Justice Department, and they brought it out there and they made an ad about it, and that's what they're saying in their ad.
And the Justice Department and Obama are really mad about this memo, too. They're trying to figure out how did the NRA get hands on this memo. And speaking of those guns, the giveaway buyback gun thing, they give gift cards and or money for them. Can you imagine taking your gun and giving it to
and getting like a little Bed Bath & Beyond gift card?
Yeah, I know. I think that, and then we get to the ad, but I think that most people cannot grasp or believe that in this country, we're not talking about Russia or China or some other place, that the government want to really just take all our guns away from us and then, in the end, kill us.
Well, yeah, it sounds extreme to people, but, that is the pretext, and I can go through as we go.
Why would they want to kill us?
This is historically what happens.
I know.
If you want to knock out a people, you register, you take, and then they're defenseless. Do you think that, people often say, oh, you're crazy. You say that these guys would be like Hitler or whatever. The point is evil. An evil heart wants to do the same thing. You can see already how much Obama wants to rule. You see already how thin-skinned he is and how he hates his enemies, he calls them, his opponents. So the only difference between what somebody would do and not doing it is the opportunity. It's like a crime. When opportunity presents itself, people commit crime. Do you think that Louis Farrakhan, if we were in South Africa right now, you imagine how much more dangerous he would be in a place where he was allowed in Zimbabwe or some way to get away with more racial things?
Yeah.
Then that person becomes more dangerous. The only reason they're not so dangerous now is because they're being held back a little bit by our system and the fact that we got lots of guns in private hands.
It's interesting in that foreigners can see the danger clearly when they come to this country, but the people who live here, born here, live here, can't see it.
Right.
They don't see it.
Right, that's
but
true.
But foreigners can see it.
That's true.
Here's that NRA ad concerning this memo that was leaked from the Justice Department.
President Obama gives a good speech, and when you listen to him talk about new gun laws, you may think he sounds reasonable. But what happens when you look at the details behind the president's policies? How would they actually work? Let's look at what Obama's own experts have to say. This internal Justice Department memo says, quote, an assault weapons ban is unlikely to have an impact on gun violence. Unlikely, that is, unless it comes with something else. Obama's experts say that a gun ban, like the one being debated right now in Congress, will not work without mandatory gun buybacks. Mandatory gun buyback. That's government confiscation of legal firearms owned by honest citizens. And what about Obama's call for universal background checks? His own experts wrote that the effectiveness of universal background checks depends on, quote, requiring gun registration. Requiring gun registration with the federal government. That's an illegal abuse of privacy and freedom unprecedented in our history. So, the Obama administration believes a gun ban will not work without mandatory gun confiscation. And universal background checks will not work without requiring national gun registration. Still think President Obama's proposals sound reasonable? Call Congress and tell them to reject President Obama's gun control agenda and to get serious about protecting our kids, prosecuting criminals, and fixing our broken mental health system. The men and women of the National Rifle Association are responsible for the content of this message.
That's amazing.
I was thinking while that was going on regarding the black community and black, some of the worst sections of town, and you have the most need for guns.
Right.
And you would think black people would be on the forefront of this, making sure their guns aren't taken away. And they've got to deal with criminals and gangsters. And I don't see a lot of black folks on this issue, unfortunately.
Well, I've said the reason for that is because they trust the government.
Yeah.
They have relied, and not all but most, have relied on the government for 50 years or more. And they believe the government will take care of them. They trust the government. When you trust the government, you're not going to fight back. Right. You're not going to fight against them, and that's what's happening. And that's the reason, another reason Obama is trying to addict as many as possible to the government. I mean, look at the mindset of young people today. They're falling for this idea that you should give up your weapons, that we don't need guns. You just need guns for hunting.
Yeah. What Chris Cox of the NRA here said is, if people listen to what this guy is saying, and they're caught. They've been caught. They got this memo catching these guys that the administration is saying, we need to take the guns away. We need to have a registration program. Forced gun buyback is what it really is. We're going to take the guns from you. They're caught. I mean, that's the what do they call that? That's the situation there where they were caught doing that red-handed. And if you read the news about this, I was looking at this news last night, and I'm like, the news media is the worst enemy of the people. Yeah. And they're worse than Obama, because Obama wouldn't have any power without the news media. He would not have gotten elected once. He wouldn't have got elected the second time. He depends on them, and they depend on him in a kind of weird kind of way. Now, look at the way that they take this article where Obama is caught red-handed saying, we're going to take your guns. The title of the article, this is Yahoo News, and they're one of the worst offenders. Again, I've said that the head of Yahoo is a woman who was a bundler for the Obama campaign. So she's not an actual journalist. Yeah. Here's the title of the article. NRA uses Justice memo to accuse Obama on guns. Now, doesn't that see the loaded language?
Yeah.
No pun intended with guns, but see the loaded language? They use memo to accuse.
Yeah.
So the article becomes about what the NRA is doing to accuse. Like if you came over and shot me dead, it would be, they would turn it around and make it on the accuser. And someone accused you of, hey, you just shot Patrick dead here. Now the media would come out and go after the person who reported that you shot me dead. That's how crazy they are.
Instead of reporting what Obama and the Justice Department are up to, they try to blame it on NRA.
Yes, and they said that they tried to walk. I was thinking last night. Remember the Wizard of Oz and how the guy's behind the curtain and the dog came and pulled the curtain away so you could see who the Wizard of Oz was.
Yes.
The media is like the Wizard of Oz in reverse. They'd be like the dog pulling the curtain back so you actually didn't see the Wizard of Oz. They've taken their job and turned it completely 180 degrees around.
And this is the first time that this has happened too in our country with the media covering up for the government. And do they want something from Obama that they're covering and protecting him like this?
Well, I think one thing is they're so proud because they pushed him forward. I think part of it, they don't want to come back now and say they were wrong. I don't think they ever want to admit they were wrong about anything, even if it means our country goes down.
So tell me again, why do they want all of our guns?
They want our guns so they can control us. They don't like us. They don't like what we have to say. They want to neutralize our power, and they don't want us to have any power.
What can we do about it at this point?
We've got to make noise with our elected officials. But again, and I'm kind of talking about this today on the show, start looking at your news that you read. You don't even have to read all alternative sources. I don't read all alternative sources. I read a lot of normal stuff like Yahoo, not normal, but mainstream media like Yahoo, AP kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And start looking at the words, or when you're hearing the words spoken to you, notice the way that the person on the TV is telling you how to think about something without saying, I'm telling you how to think about it.
Right, that's a good
And just start
point.
noticing that, and you're going to see a lot right now.
Also, call your representative, tell them they got to get behind this and stop this guy from taking the weapons. And if they don't, you got to fire them. You got to get involved, folks.